Yo, 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 it's Jeb in his house. Hey, yo, we're going to space, yo. Hey, yo, we're going to space. Rolling on 909s, making money big time. Hustle Uncle Sam on the taxpayer's dime. We're the spacemen in our space bridges. We gone from rags to buku riches. Throw your rockets in the air like you just don't care. Throw your rockets in the air like you just don't care. We a G unit, baby. And don't you forget it. We a G force, homie. That's a G limit. We on fire like a blade of home down. See you later. But before I'm out, let's launch this Cap Simulator. We a G unit, baby. We a G unit, baby.
Hello everybody, the Lord Root here, and welcome back to another episode of G-Limit. So, today we're going to actually go to Duna, but there's some things we need to take care of first. Being the opportunist, of course, I do want to go ahead and take these launchpad contracts, which I'll get out of the way. And, we're hitting our Duna window soon. I think we can probably do this. So I am going to take this guy out to Duna as well, this surface outpost, because we just need a docking port and the ability to generate power, which is nice. And we have 34 years with which to do it. Also a huge surplus to our fines, which will become important, because without those fines, we are not going to be able to do our preferred upgrade, which is, of course, updating the VAB, or not the VAB, the research area. So just to remind you, we've got a number of things here. We've got, first of all, exploring Duna, which is going to yield us tons of finds, and we can do that in parallel with the lander. That will not be too hard to do, but in addition to that, we have positioning the satellite, and we have sending the surface outpost to Minmus as well. And in addition to that, I am preparing for the flyby missions for the Ike as well, the moon of Ike, rather. So, without any further ado, let me just come over here, and I'll show you what we will be sending to Minmus. I'm taking care of this one first, just so that we can get the cash boost. Okay, so KSP crashed, or rather OBS crashed, causing KSP to crash. And so, I remembered at any rate we do have to go into the VAB anyhow, and grab these engines here. Now these are the side-mounted engines, and this is quite nice. I've already done the contracts for these guys here, so we don't have to worry about those anymore. But I do know for sure we're going to want to research this Twitch engine, which will leave us with about 40 science. And let us bring up my base that I'm going to launch here. It is a little bit temperamental to get up, and I haven't played in a while. I've been really busy. I wanted to possibly do something for the New Horizons launch, but time didn't permit it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to do this. We have this landing can, and it's a fairly large rocket. It's got SRBs, it's got these, I forget what they're called, the little side engines here, the THUD, liquid fuel engines, and we might as well go ahead and get the 3x2 solar panels. I think we need the ladders as well. Invariably I would have missed something, but here we go. Oh, we need the new science experiment as well. That is important. And pretty much everything aside from that is, I think, unlocked. We'll make sure nobody's in the capsule because this is going to be a manned or an unmanned landing, as it should be. These guys are more or less just going to come to Earth or come to the space whenever they please. And the thing about this is that this particular vehicle here will allow us to fulfill 2 contracts, because we gotta get this guy into orbit, and that will fulfill the Kerbin orbital contract. And then in addition to that, we need to get this guy on Minmus as well. So we're going to get this guy ready to launch real quick. Oh, we need the small inline reaction wheel. You can see it's like 55 or so grand. We're going to get way more out of this though, in fact. This is about the budget for the launch for the Minmus station. And while we're at it, I think we're good to possibly come up here if the menu will get out of the way and grab our seismic data while we can, because there's no point in us not grabbing it while we have the accelerometer. It'll give us a marginal amount of science, but who cares? One thing I do want to do though is I do want to get my phase angle to about 330 or thereabout, and that shouldn't take too long. We have to wait for the sunrise, of course, but I will launch this guy and maybe see you in orbit unless something goes catastrophically wrong. So yeah, we'll just wait for the obligatory takeoff montage here in a bit. Or I guess it's not really a montage, is it? There we go. But yeah, we'll see you when we get in orbit. Okay, there we go. Perhaps not the most perfect insertion, but we're doing pretty good, I think. We are 1.2 degrees off from Minmus, and that of course means that we may have to struggle a little bit to get this guy out here. But oh, look at that. I'll work with that just a little bit. The plan is that we're going to bring this guy up to the poles. So I will ideally see you in Minmus orbit once I figure all of this out, and we will land this puppy. Okay, we're nearing close to Duna's, or rather Minmus' sphere of influence, and I think we should be preparing pretty soon to make that happen. I'm just going to let this warp to SOI thing do its job, and I will crank time forward a bit as we are now about to enter that SOI. It took about 4.5 days to get here, which is a pretty aggressive deal. This thing is tons of Delta V. And I think that will not be a problem. In fact, we are now about where we want to be. We want to be going polar, which we're pretty close to doing, actually. This has been a fortuitous occasion. So I'm going to make an inclination adjustment here to get us as close to polar as we can. I think that's good enough. And then we will do a radial burn. I believe this guy pushes us towards the planet, if I'm not mistaken. That's always a difficult thing for me to figure out. We're gonna go pretty shallow. I want to go to about 20 kilometers or so. And it is good for us to spend the time in order to make sure this happens, because, you know, that for at least from my standpoint, this is going to be the last mission that I do before the Duna launch. I mean, we could wait around. Oh, we went a little bit over there. We could wait around for another mission, but I do want to go ahead and get Duna taken care of, because Duna has the possibility to unlock a lot of things, and you know, I never really get to Duna in most of my series. Anyway, that's coming up in an hour or so, and so I'm just going to zoom in real quickly and get in as close as possible. There is no science to collect from here, so it's really just a matter of us getting into an orbit. And we definitely have the Delta V to do that. In fact, I'm just going to circularize here. Might as well produce the energy while we can. My plan is to land on the poles, but I do have fuel available to relocate if we really want to, and we may find it that in the interest of science, that might not be such a bad idea, come to think of it. Now it says 1 minute and 24 seconds. I don't really trust that. It seems to be excessive, because we're lowering our periapsis. I think that we won't get too much harm out of a test burn. So that's a 12 or so second burn. We would have in fact been burning a little bit early. So we'll burn around 6 seconds or so. And this means we're going to have 6 launches today along with this. I had not really planned for the Duna station, but it's tempting, and we got 34 years to complete it. Let's just get that down like so. I think that that's just fine in terms of a periapsis. We're going to essentially wait until we get over the poles, and I can tell that from looking at engineer. So, you know, we'll do that. I'll probably spare you the landing, or at least most of it. I'll let you see that it's landed, but the landing is probably going to be a little bit slower, just because of our height. This is meant really to be, I guess you'd call it a precision landing. It'd be nice too if when we hit the poles, if we come on the light side. But yeah, just to give you an idea how much Delta V we got, we got the 200 something here that is going to definitely be expended with that last stage, and then almost 2k more. So putting parachutes on this thing and sending it to Duna is not a bad idea. Okay, we are now committing ourselves to landing. And I think maybe the easiest thing for us to do here is simply kill our horizontal velocity. And watch the altimeter, of course. Okay, we're in the last 100 meters or so before touchdown. I just realized my camera was in orbital mode, which is a bit disconcerting, but we can recover from that. Pretty easily, actually. And if we can touch down at 1 meter per second, then I'll be happy with that. This is a very slow landing. But, we'll just bring down the, engine power here. And there we go, we have touched down the surface. Now we gotta wait for stability so we can get some science going in the interim. Send out that temperature data. We will also log the seismic data, which we really do need to send a Kerbal out here eventually, when I can get a proper space station going. But that should be more or less what we're doing. Hopefully, yeah, it looks like OBS almost crashed there. So, yeah, this guy is done. And that really means, that's a seismic scan. That means, of course, that we have to get our other vessels out. Let's see, the barometric scan, I think, was the last one. We can't send any other science yet. Yeah. We'll just take a look at that. We are at 99.5. We can almost afford, with another 60 science or so, we could afford a new tech tree entry, which is great. Let's check and see if we have any contracts we can do. Yeah, I'll get that while we're doing the launches, I guess. These landing gear, we don't have to be in flight to do that. It's small fish, but that leaves us with these guys here. And I'm fairly certain we can get this guy out to Duna without any trouble. We have the Delta V for it. This guy will do with the science that comes out of it. This guy will do en route to Duna, I think. Because we really do want that. That comes with the new landing legs. And for this guy, we're going to have to get a little bit creative. So let me show you what I've done. It turns out that we really do have 2 or 3 different types of vehicles we can do. I'll just put this landing can aside for a moment, and we will go to the Solaris here. So the Solaris is a vessel that is essentially meant to go into the atmosphere. The Solaris Mark IIA. In our Solaris line, what I've basically decided is that these guys are not recoverable. And that's not a bad thing. Certainly, there are things I need to check before I launch this. For instance, do we have a seismometer? And it turns out we do. So this guy's good. We have all of the stuff we're looking for there. And we have, for our Ike mission, the other version of it, the non-atmospheric version, which is essentially a nose cone in place of that parachute. It's a little bit lighter as a result, so it gets more delta V. And of course we go here. Again, we still have the things that we're looking for. And that's all well and good. However, it's worth pointing out that we will eventually be asked to return a craft to Kerbin. So, that's a bit of a problem, and I decided that the Polaris technology that we have here can be retrofitted. Now, this is, of course, the Polaris as we know it. It's more or less the same payload. We have new instrumentation on it, but otherwise, all it's going to do is come back to Kerbin. And what I've done is I've put an additional stage on it, one that really will allow us to get a whole bunch of kick out of it, because once we get up into the atmosphere, we'll have a fair amount of delta V here, more than what we will need. So I have this 2K delta V here. Don't really know why it is that this engine here, I guess it's out of order. Yeah, there we go. This is just in case I really screw up the mission. We're going to send 2 of these. We're going to send also a Solaris Mark IIA and a Solaris Mark IIL. And let me just check. We're not bothering with the seismometer on this one. But these parachutes in particular do need to be set past 500. More like 110, because as we know, 500 will no longer cut it with these parachutes. So that's my plan, and I'm just going to save this guy here real quick. Finally, we do want to take a look at the space station, and that can be an interesting thing there. The what was it? The landing can. Now, the thing about the landing can is that it's about 8 tons, right? And it will cost a little bit more to send out. But, we really do need parachutes on it for this to work. And the question is, how does that change our delta V? Certainly, it's not by much. I think we do sacrifice a little bit of delta V to get out there, but in hindsight, we have so much of it, maybe we can afford 4 of them. That's going to be the real question. What happens if we put 4 on there? Not much. Which could be a bit of a problem, because, well, I guess come to think of it, maybe not too much of a problem. Let's take a look at our delta V here. Yeah, we can afford that, and really we want this to have as much of a chance of landing as possible, because Duna's atmosphere is not really enough to slow us down. We need those parachutes to help us. But we'll just call this the 1A for atmosphere. Yeah, that's... These 5 things are going to be part of our thing. And you know what, we might as well. Given the fact that these solar panels here will probably not survive the ordeal, I am going to replace them with these guys right here, which looks like it has a minimal impact on Delta V. Maybe we might want to move that out of the way. So, one thing I will want to do before we really do any of this is I'm going to check to see if we have an Earth satellite or an Earth space station contract. And of course, by Earth I mean Kerbin. So, I will grind that up real quick. Oh, that's a good one, actually, because we are testing this. Let's see if we can make that come up, and I will see you once I get something like that going. Oh, science data on Minmus. I'll do the same thing with the science data that I usually do. Anyway, we'll see you then. Okay, there we go. I went ahead and did a couple of science contracts, but in general, I think that should be okay. Well, actually, let me check to see what I just did. Yeah, we're good. This will help us move forward. In a way, I'm wondering if maybe you might even consider it cheating to do it that way. I do think funds can be a bit of an issue, and it does slow things down. So, some will disagree with me, but I'm going to go forward with it. One thing we do need to do, and I'll do this in the tracking center, is we do need to get to about within a day or so in terms of our launch window. And that will be something that will allow us to... Because, you know, I don't really think it's necessary for us to otherwise wait around. We really do want this mission to happen. So I think maybe around the 1 day mark, it'll give us 6 hours to launch everything. That's actually closer to 8, which is not a bad little deal. It's in broad daylight now. Check contracts one more time. Okay, we're good. Let us begin by launching the, Solaris or Polaris, it really doesn't matter. I'm thinking we might as well get that hammer contract out of the way, so we'll go with the Polaris, which does happen to have the... I believe those are hammers on it. Which ones are those? Yeah, very good. We just need to maintain really a 1 degree inclination, or as close to a 0 degree inclination as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch each of these into succession, or in succession rather, and I will show you maybe the first trans-Mars injection that I do. But we'll skip most of the fanfare with this. So we will see you in Kerbin orbit. Okay, we have just entered into Kerbin orbit here. And now the question is, how do we get to Duna? Well, the answer to that, of course, is that we will burn outwards. But exactly how we do that is something that's not immediately obvious. So the real rule of thumb here is to come out here on the dark side of Kerbin, which will be pointing away from the sun, of course, and we'll just drag the sky around until we get a marker. It'll take pretty close to 1100 delta V, or 1100 meters per second, and we should see that come up pretty soon. And we can tweak our angle just a little bit. There we go. We have a Duna periapsis. For now, it is best to get it as low as we can, which will require some tweaking on our part. Our inclination is okay, I guess. I mean, it's not the best inclination, but it's still some 0.6 off, and that is relative to the ecliptic. Well, what we'll really want to be doing is we'll probably just want to get it out here, because I've found that once the sky changes its sphere of influence, that we run into this issue. We might actually want to make it a little bit closer than that, come to think of it. Well, you know, there's this issue to where without that, we will run into this problem to where the sky will basically, forgot what I was thinking about, actually. Let me get this guy figured out. Oh, you know what I was going to say is that this often changes. Let me see if maybe we can't get us there a little bit faster, because it is important for us to get there as quickly as we reasonably can. Alright, that seems reasonable to me, and it's in 5 minutes. It is a 2-minute burn, which I will not force you to sit through. And, you'll notice that this guy here is pretty sluggish. But, what we'll want to do is we'll want to put an alarm when we exit Kerbin SOI, because we will need to make a correction, and this close out, it is probably better for us to correct as close as we can to Kerbin. Sometimes you do it at the descending node, but anyway, we will see you then, and I will probably launch another version of this so we can have 2. Again, the reason we're doing that is so that whenever the Ike missions come up, we can utilize that. Anyway, we'll see you then. Okay, it took a little bit of correction on my part, but we're about where we want to be here. And we really should not expect that to remain so. But anyway, let's get another one of these guys up here. Is that is going to be a bit of a big deal for us. And I think, yeah, we'll just repeat the launch. And, I keep on forgetting to get these launch clamps. Anyway, I will see you shortly before the injection burn. Okay, there we go. I've been having this issue with the maneuver node thingy lying to us. I'm just going to put this into an orientation that's favorable for hitting the sun, so we don't run out of power on the way there. I've also taken the liberty of renaming this thing so we don't get confused. But in the interim, I think there's one feature I really forgot to talk about with respect to our mission. And that feature is, of course, the fact that our lander is actually two separate satellites. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Because it'll be important. Looks like I forgot to add a maneuver node to that as well. Why don't we launch the A first? Because that one is the most important one to get there. Let's go to Solaris Mark IIA. And I do want to point out, you'll see there's this interstage fairing here. We'll just close that guy up for now. You'll notice there's actually a probe in here. This guy will be able to separate after we aerobrake at Duna and become its own little satellite. It's got about 2,000 meters per second of delta V on it. In fact, I thought about making this the sort of return vessel, but it doesn't really meet the criteria, and it's supposed to be lean and mean, so I decided not to. Anyway, it's about the same launcher as last time. What I'm going to do real quick is I forgot to add an alarm for that other Polaris spacecraft, so I'm going to add that in real quick. Get that guy up to TLI, or to, not TLI rather, but TDI, I guess. And then we will see you once that has been done. Okay, we have a bit of a problem here, which is that we're coming in at the same time as the other probe. So the best thing for us to do is increase the time. Now let's see how we can make that happen. I think it should be possible for us to make this happen if we rotate out, because we want this new, we want a little bit of margin here at least. We don't want periapsis to be too far, but there we go. That'll give us a day or two of buffer, which is sorely needed at this point. And this is one of the guys we do want to get there, maybe if not first, then next. Just because of the fact that if we don't, then that could be a bit of a problem. Anyway, I'm going to get this guy oriented in the proper direction for maximum solar panel visibility. And I will launch perhaps the Ike probe next. So we'll just leave it at that. I will see you here in a bit. Okay, we just completed the burn for the lander for Ike, which means that we've only got one more burn to take care of now, or one more launch. And that, of course, is going to be the space station. One which I don't think we'll have any trouble getting up, or even getting out there, especially since we're taking advantage of this launch window. We could possibly rescue this guy here. He's in low carbon orbit, but I do want to keep our I want to keep our options open for now. We might make that happen on the next episode if I decide it's worthwhile, because I usually do try to get at least one launch in per episode. This episode, I think, sort of makes up for that in the sense that we've had 6 launches, 6 very time-consuming launches as it turns out. But let's go to our guy here, the landing can 1A. This guy is probably going to be able to get us to where we need to get. I am going to just check real quick to make sure that we satisfy the contract before I send this piece of equipment out. Because if there's anything we can do to change that, well, we might as well. Let's see. I'll move engineer out of the way. We do satisfy Kerbin, and we satisfy Duna. So the only thing left for us to do... Whoa. Looks like Bob is a little bit excited there. A little bit too excited. I'm not sending him to Duna with no way off just quite yet. Even though it could make for an interesting launch. This guy has to be completely automated because, honestly, I don't know if I have the technology to get Bob back if I send him to Duna. And I mean, it's not like we're playing far or anything. Or not far, but RSS. So that's really not as big of a deal, this whole life support thing that we would otherwise have to deal with. And nonetheless, I think we could use Bob here. And if we really wanted to, that we would send Bob on a manned mission with somebody who could perhaps get him off the surface. Anyway, we are going to go to Duna, and this should be the last launch, so I will see you right after Trans-Duna injection. Okay, that's good enough. I am going to probably end the video shortly, but while we're at it, why don't we begin by making our corrections? At least as best as we can. Now we know that at least when these guys come out, they're yeah, it's doing that because we exceeded our window. I think it's safe to say that our window is more than over. In fact, I would even say that a regular space program would really have trouble doing any of this. I'll just delete this guy. And wait for things to stabilize. One of the things about interplanetary travel, and one thing in particular that's worth pointing out, is that occasionally you will lose your sphere of influence, which can be a bit of a problem. Now, in this case, it seems like we're just fine. And hopefully we're not coming in too much. But I want to give us some time to move forward, just because whenever we switch to this vessel here, what is very likely to happen, we won't jump to the ship yet. No, whatever that was, we will probably begin to accrue error. And you can see that's already changing just very slightly. So I'm going to wait for all these guys to leave their sphere of influence. And hope that this... Yeah, see, it's changing right there because of the time warp. And we really need to decide on a pecking order for these guys. I think definitely, let's add this guy in real quick, as he's coming in pretty soon. We'll start with somebody who's already way out. If I can find my mouse, that is a bit of a problem. I've got it somewhere around here, but basically the thing is going to be, let's just take a look at this. We have 174 days versus 169. I would very much, however, desire that periapsis to go down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to tweak it. There we go. There's my mouse. And this is a little bit difficult because, as it turns out, these two orbits do sort of intersect each other. So let me just come on back to this guy real quick. I forget exactly which one that was. It's probably the second module. Let's see. Solaris Mark 14A. Now we can decide that we are going to do our correction way out here. Wow, look at that. We've got a crazy little fleet going on. You know, it's not a bad thing to do. The only issue is, because of the placement of my node, this is a well-known bug, by the way. Occasionally you will not be able to adjust this beyond periapsis. If I can maybe push this forward just a little bit, what I don't want to happen is... Oh, what's that new periapsis at? That's exactly what I want right there, is I want a low periapsis, but a high entry time. And that'll mean that this guy will come in about 5 days after the other one. So we'll just make that correction there. And that actually... that was okay. There we go. Solaris Mark... oh no, don't do that. That takes care of that guy. We want to manage this, essentially, so that these guys come in at a reasonable pace. So this guy, for instance, no telling how far out he is. Let's see what, okay, we're still... it's 170 days. That's tolerable, I think. Oops. Yeah, it's the thing about this is that we gotta move this back down. We want very, very slight adjustments here. And then, of course, KSP sometimes does this to you here, which is really fantastically annoying. But I think that means that our Icelander will probably be the first in. Or maybe not. Looks like there may be 4 hours between everything, which, you know, is really just dandy. We just need enough space to work. Let's see what we're at now. Okay, maybe even a little bit more buffer. See, that's the deal with these guys, though, is that they do often, if you do send a fleet like this, they do often come in very close together. And that can be a bit of a problem. Now you can do things to adjust the timing, of course. Like that. Okay. I will have to play around with that maybe. That is just a little bit too close for comfort. But, yeah. We've got, about an hour there. Which leaves this Polaris craft here. And, that means... I think this guy's actually scheduled to show up pretty far away. In fact, let me run time warp a little bit, see what it says here. We could possibly utilize a reduction in apsis that actually does us good, because, or no, it doesn't reduce our apsis at all. See, am I just better off? I think I have a home and transfer here. I'm gonna leave that where it is. And that just leaves the space station, which just left Kerbin orbit, according to this thing, and is due to show up in 185 days, but with a relatively high periapsis, so I went to fix that. Let's see if it's holding there. Okay. This one could be kind of tricky. Let me just figure out exactly which way we're supposed to be going. May need to actually tilt a little bit to get the desired effect. That appears to be the case, that we need to burn, I guess, normal. And we can do that almost immediately. So let's do it. Let's see what we're at now. I mean, you know, we're actually fairly close. And there we go. That means that we may possibly lose one vessel due to our ineptitude. But, I'll actually play around with that and see if that's the case. In the interim, I suppose we should just be glad we got all these vessels going. I think while I'm at it, this guy needs to be a base. But until then, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.